I'm going to attach an article on the Washington Post. And the title, How Rubio Helped His Ex-Con Brother-in-Law Acquire a Real Estate License. Senator Marco Rubio's brother-in-law was indicted for drug trafficking. Well, that's not a big deal. If that's all he did, Obama, he's all over that, you know? When Marco Rubio was majority whip at the Florida House of Representatives, he used his official position to urge state regulators to grant a real estate license to his brother-in-law, a convicted cocaine trafficker, who had been released from prison 20 months earlier, according to records obtained by the Washington Post. In July of 2002, Rubio sent a letter on his official State House stationery to the Florida Division of Real Estate, recommending Orlando Cecilia for licensure without reservation. The letter, obtained by the Washington Post under the Florida Public Record Act, offers a glimpse of Rubio using his growing political power to assist his troubled brother-in-law, and provides new insight into how the young lawmaker intertwined his personal and political lives. Rubio did not disclose in the letter that Cecilia was married to his sister, Barbara, or that the former cocaine dealer was living at the time in the same West Miami home as Rubio's parents. He wrote that he had known Cecilia for over 25 years, without elaborating. Rubio has avoided discussing Cecilia's case in detail and has declined to answer questions about his relationship with his brother-in-law. Earlier this month, prior to the Post publishing an article about Cecilia's case, Rubio declined to answer a written question about whether he had helped win the approval of his brother-in-law's real estate license. Rubio also declined to say whether he or his family received financial assistance from Cecilia, who was convicted in a high-profile 1989 trial of distributing $15 million worth of cocaine. The federal government seized Cecilia's home. The money was never found. Cecilia, 58, could not be reached for comment. He still lives in the same home as Rubio's mother and has appeared at campaign events for his brother-in-law. Rubio affiliated PAC in campaigns including his ongoing presidential operations, and paid Cecilia's two sons more than $130,000 in the past decade. Orlando made some very big mistakes almost 30 years ago, served his time, and has paid his debt to society, Rubio's presidential campaign advisor, Todd Harris, said in an email. Today, he is a private citizen, husband and father, simply trying to make a living. It is appalling and shameful that the Washington Post continues to drag him into the spotlight. Marco had recommended scores of Floridians for various professional positions, and after Orlando paid his debt to society, Marco was happy to recommend him as well. He believed Orlando should be judged on his own merit and felt it would be highly inappropriate and could be perceived as exerting undue pressure if his letter stated that Orlando was a relative. Daniel Bryan, an executive director of the Project on Government Oversight, a government watchdog in Washington, said Rubio's role concerned her. Someone who serves their time should be a productive member of society, and it's important for families to help each other, but it's wrong to use your public office for personal private gain, Bryan said. By not disclosing his relationship, Rubio withheld a key piece of information from the real estate board, Bryan added. The general rule of thumb I apply to conflicts of interest is if you can't eliminate them, you need to manage them by disclosing the conflict, she said. I'm uncomfortable that you didn't acknowledge the conflict. Rubio, a Republican who represents Florida in the U.S. Senate, was a 16-year-old high school junior in '87 when Cecilia was arrested in one of the largest drug cases in Florida's history. There has never been any evidence that Rubio or his family knew that Cecilia was dealing cocaine, although Drug Enforcement Administration surveillance records show Cecilia stored cocaine from the drug ring at his home, a few miles away from Rubio and his parents lived. By 2002, when Cecilia applied for his real estate license, Rubio was accumulating significant power in Tallahassee. He had been tapped as majority whip, and he added to his growing portfolio when he was named chairman of the prominent task force on Florida's tax structure. Later that year, he was selected as House Majority Leader, a position that put him on the fast track to become Speaker of the House. Now, you really want to take a look at this, and I'm hoping that the Donald gets a hold of this video as well, because I don't believe that a convicted felon can have a real estate license. I might be wrong, but I'm inclined to think otherwise. Here it also goes on to say, Cecilia's cocaine conviction presented a complication for his application. Unlike some states, Florida does not prohibit felons from holding real estate licenses. Their applications are considered on a case-by-case basis by 7 members of the Florida Real Estate Commission, who was appointed by the governor. The governor at that time was Rubio's political mentor, Jeb Bush, who was now running against the Florida senator for the Republican presidential nomination. The budget of the agency is controlled by the Florida legislature, where Rubio wielded considerable influence. Cecilia had one technical issue in his favor. In general, the board frowns upon applicants who have been convicted of fraud and related charges. He had been convicted in drug trafficking cases. Regardless of the charge, felons can plead their case before the board members and ask character witnesses to submit letters to testify on their behalf. If someone had been found guilty of fraud, that's going to go against them, said Chelsea Eagle, a spokesman for the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulations, which oversees licenses in the state. It all depends on the circumstances of the case. Cecilia applied for his license in February of 2002, and he answered yes to a question about whether he had been convicted of a crime. State regulators wanted to know more. Cecilia responded on June 5th, outlining his cocaine conviction and sentencing, and saying he had an impeccable record during his time in prison. Well, all right, so it looks like they can't get licenses, but it looks like if the board knew it was one of the largest cocaine trafficking dealers in the state, he might have had a problem without the help from Rubio. And the fact that Rubio kept it quiet, I think that's wrong. But that's not all I think that's wrong with Rubio. He doesn't qualify to be a presidential candidate. Neither parent was an American citizen. Can you get that through your heads, folks? And demand that he is removed from the ballots. I hope Donald gets this. He might be able to wield some authority. What a joke. Marco Rubio.